Welcome to this deep dive into the Formula One Bahrain Grand Prix 2025.
Hi there.
We've got a great collection of articles you shared, all from F1 blogs.
That's right.
And our mission today really is to pull out the key insights, the big moments from what was a pretty exciting race.
Absolutely. We'll look at, the winner, maybe a bit of a surprise one.
Definitely.
The struggles for some of the big championship names and, the roller coaster some other drivers had.
Okay, so the sources, all F1 blogs. We've got reports zeroing in on Oscar Piastri's victory, the reactions.
Yeah, and another piece that puts his win against the backdrop of, the trouble others found themselves in.
Right. Especially the Spanish drivers, it seems.
Exactly. Then there's a really detailed live race summary, lap by lap.
Always useful.
And another F1 blogs report just hammering home how dominant Piastri actually was. It gives us a lot to talk about.
It really does.
Okay.
Okay, let's unpack it. Piastri's performance is clearly the headline, isn't it?
For sure.
But there's so much else going on. We need to understand how he pulled off such a controlled win.
Yeah, and what George Russell and Lando Norris were up against.
And Max Verstappen. His struggles were quite something.
Definitely unexpected, plus the bad luck, or maybe more than luck, for Sainz and Alonso.
Exactly. And what does this all mean for the championship going forward? That's the big question.
It is, and you see this real contrast, don't you? Piastri having this, relatively calm drive, while behind him it felt pretty chaotic for a lot of the main rivals. Suggests maybe a shift in the pecking order, at least for Bahrain.
Let's start with Piastri then, that victory. The F1 blogs reports really paint a picture of complete control. Started P1, finished P1.
Yep, lights to flag, always impressive. And the reports quote him saying the weekend was incredible.
You'd think so.
He gave a lot of credit to the McLaren team, said the car was very practical out there.
Practical. Interesting word choice.
Maybe lost in translation slightly, but the point is the car worked really well for him. And he made a point about Bahrain historically not being McLaren's strongest track.
Ah, okay. That makes the win even bigger then, doesn't it?
It really does. Suggests maybe those upgrades they brought are really working, even on different kinds of circuits.
And it wasn't just a flash in the pan, right?
Yeah.
This was win number 2 for him this season.
Second win already, yeah. It really puts him right in the mix.
He even sounded confident about the safety car period, which can often throw a spanner in the works.
Totally. That shows real maturity, doesn't it? Keeping calm, trusting the car, trusting the strategy, even when the field bunches up.
The F1 blogs reports are definitely framing this as, a sign he's maturing into a potential championship contender.
I think that's fair. It wasn't a lucky win. It looked like genuine pace, genuine control.
Okay, so a commanding performance from Piastri. Let's move to George Russell. Second place, great result on paper.
Fantastic result.
But reading the F1 blogs reports, it sounds like it wasn't exactly a smooth ride for him.
No, not entirely. He got P2, but he mentioned having a brake-by-wire failure near the end.
Ooh, that's not what you want.
Definitely not. He said the pedal felt inconsistent, sometimes long, sometimes short. That would be incredibly difficult to manage when you're pushing.
I bet. He must have been relieved to see the checkered flag.
He basically said as much. Felt Norris might have caught him with one more lap.
Wow. And there was that weird DRS thing, too.
Yeah, apparently he accidentally opened the DRS flap when he went to press the radio button. Bit of a finger fumble.
Huh? Easy mistake to make, I suppose, under pressure?
Maybe, but it's not ideal. DRS gives you that straight line speed boost, meant only for specific zones when you're close to another car.
Did he gain anything from it?
He realized quickly and backed off, so probably no real advantage gained, but it's just another thing to worry about.
And wasn't his second place under investigation for a bit afterwards? Because of that?
It was, yeah. Potential DRS infringement. So even crossing the line second, there was probably a bit of anxiety until it was cleared.
So, drama even for the guy who finished second. What about the other? McLaren, Lando Norris. P3 completes a great team result.
A 1-3, yeah. Fantastic for McLaren overall.
But the F1 blogs reports suggest Lando wasn't exactly thrilled with his own race.
No, he was quite self-critical, actually. Said he made too many errors, particularly with overtakes and just general positioning. Called it complicated.
He felt a 1-2 was on the cards.
Sounds like it. He felt he didn't quite get the maximum out of it, even though he ended up on the podium.
He did give Russell credit for defending well, though.
Oh, yeah. Acknowledged Russell did a good job holding him off. But then there was that penalty right at the start.
Ah, yes, the 5-second penalty. That must have hurt.
Definitely. For being slightly out of his grid slot. And the interesting tidbit from F1 blogs was that Verstappen supposedly flagged it to Red Bull before the race even started.
No way. Max spotting that even before lights out.
Shows the level of detail they operate at, doesn't it? Always looking for an edge or a rival's mistake.
Incredible. And Norris also mentioned tire degradation being an issue for him.
Yeah, seemed to struggle a bit more with keeping the tires alive compared to, say, Piastri. That probably limited his attack later on, too.
So even though he had maybe the faster car overall and fresher tires towards the end compared to Russell,
he couldn't quite make the move stick for P2.
Right. So a podium keeps the championship lead, but only just.
Exactly. He's still leading, but Piastri's closed right up. Only 3 points in it now. That McLaren intra-team battle is getting spicy.
It really is. Okay, let's talk Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, 4th. Lewis Hamilton, 5th. What did F1 blogs make of their weekend?
Leclerc in P4 showed, well, decent pace, especially on newer tires, it seems.
He had that strategy advantage starting on mediums, didn't he?
Yeah, that played out okay for him, and he put up a really strong fight against Norris for that final podium spot for quite a while. Good defensive driving.
And Hamilton, P5 from P9 on the grid.
Solid recovery drive from Lewis. Got voted driver of the day by the fans, actually, according to one F1 blogs piece.
Ah, okay. So the fans recognized he had a good race despite starting further back.
Yeah, suggests he got the maximum out of the car on the day.
So decent points for Ferrari. The reports mentioned upgrades. Did they seem to work?
The general feeling from the F1 blogs analysis seems to be, yes, the upgrades have helped. They've improved the overall pace.
But maybe not enough to challenge McLaren, at least not in Bahrain.
Seems that way. They were competitive in the mix, but perhaps lacking that ultimate edge that McLaren had on this particular circuit. Maybe other tracks will suit them better.
Right. Now, Max Verstappen, 6th. That's the big shocker, isn't it?
Absolutely. You just don't expect to see him finishing P6 when the car is reliable.
And the F1 blogs coverage makes it sound like it was just one problem after another.
It really does. Started with brake issues that apparently plagued him all weekend and just carried on into the race.
That must be horrible, not trusting your brakes.
Nightmare for a driver.
Yeah.
And then the pit stops.
Oh yeah, the first one was slow, wasn't it? Something about a red light signal.
Exactly. Mechanics' signal issue held him up. Then they put him on the hard tires.
Which didn't seem to work well for anyone in Bahrain.
Not really on the Red Bull, it seemed. Just lacked grip, lacked pace. And then, to top it off, a second slow pit stop later on.
Just a catalog of issues.
Pretty much. And he was quite blunt afterwards, wasn't he? Saying the Red Bull just didn't have the performance compared to McLaren there.
That's a big statement from him. Usually they find a way.
It is. And the result. He slips to 3rd in the championship. A really costly weekend for Red Bull and Verstappen.
Wow. Okay, let's switch to the other driver who had a really tough time, Carlos Sainz. Started well, but it all went wrong.
Yeah, another Spaniard having a difficult Sunday. He actually got up to P6 early on, looked promising.
But then the Tsunoda incident.
Right. Collision with Yuki Tsunoda. The F1 blogs reports describe quite a bit of damage. Side pod cracked, radiator exposed. That's serious.
Yeah, you can't race competitively like that for long.
Exactly. Performance drops off a cliff, and then he copped a penalty later as well.
He did. 10 seconds for forcing Kimi Antonelli off track. So insult added to injury, really.
Pretty much. The damage from the Tsunoda clash eventually just proved too much. Performance fell away, and they had to retire the car with about 10 laps left.
And Sainz felt the Tsunoda incident should have been looked at more closely.
Understandably, yeah. He felt Tsunoda was maybe more at fault. A really unfortunate end to his race.
Seems like it. And Fernando Alonso, another tough one for AstonMartin.
Yeah, a real struggle for Fernando. Finished way down in 16th.
Ouch.
The F1 blog's analysis suggests the Aston Martin just didn't have the pace in Bahrain, struggling in slow corners, lacking straight-line speed.
Just generally off the pace compared to the front runners.
And even the midfield, it seemed. He started 13th, which one report suggested might have even flattered the car a bit.
Implying he perhaps wrung its neck in qualifying.
Potentially, but in the race, he just couldn't make progress, couldn't hold position. A weekend to forget for Aston Martin, I think. They'll be digging into the data.
Any other standout performances further back? Any surprises in the points?
Well, F1 blogs highlighted Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon getting 7th and 8th for Alpine Haas. Good result for them.
Valid points.
Yuki Tsunoda got 9th, his first points for Red Bull this season, which will be a relief for him.
Definitely needed that.
And Oliver Bierman grabbed the last point in 10th. Good effort.
So a real mix of fortunes down the order, too. But the big picture, coming back to the front, the championship is really tightened up.
Massively. Like we said, Norris leads on 77 points. Piastri, after that win, is right there on 74.
And Verstappen's down to third with 69 after that tough race.
Yeah. And the general takeaway from the F1 blogs reports is that McLaren looked like the car to beat in Bahrain. Real performance advantage shown.
So, wrapping this up, this deep dive into the Bahrain Grand Prix shows how a race that looked maybe simple from the front, with Piastri's win,
Yeah, let's straightforward for him.
was actually packed with drama just beneath the surface. Mechanical failures, penalties, strategic battles.
And huge implications for the championship. Verstappen's struggles, the Norris penalty. It just shows how tight things are in F1. One bad weekend can cost you so much.
And the battles all the way down the field, based on those F1 blogs reports, made it a really engaging race overall.
Absolutely. And Piastri's drive. It definitely throws a whole new element into the title fight, doesn't it? He's not just supporting Norris. He looks like a real contender in his own right now.
Makes you wonder how that dynamic plays out within McLaren, too.
Exactly. Plus, we had the Russell investigation hanging over things for a bit. Teams will be poring over the data from this race. Lots to think about before the next one.
Hopefully, this deep dive, using all that great coverage from F1 blogs, has given everyone listening a clear picture of what went down in Bahrain and why it matters.
Yeah, definitely encourage people to check out highlights if they missed it or dig into some of the analysis themselves.
So what happens next time out? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Another deep dive for another day.
Indeed. But here's something to think about until then. We saw McLaren dominate in Bahrain, a track they maybe didn't expect to. Was that a track-specific performance, or have they genuinely leapfrogged Red Bull and Ferrari consistently now? How Red Bull responds to their rare off weekend, and whether Ferrari can unlock more from their upgrades on a different circuit? That's going to be fascinating to watch. Will strategy and drivers make the difference, or is it purely about who brings the best car? Leaves us with plenty to anticipate.